Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Well, hello everybody. I'm in a much better mood this week because my G-men, right there, got a win. A very sloppy win, and I still think we're the worst team in the NFC East, but we got a win. I don't like our chances against the Eagles this week, whether Vic plays or not, but we shall see. Couple things wrestling related that I wanted to talk about, namely Night of Champions, the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view coming up, Bound for Glory, but I'll get to that in a future video, and a special guest host that is coming to WWE programming Halloween night, but I'll get to that at the end of the video. Starting with Night of Champions, like I said, I think I said this last week, I didn't watch it, didn't order it. I actually spent the weekend watching pretty much everything except wrestling. Sunday was football day, obviously. Philly and Atlanta, awesome game. That was the match of the week, no doubt. And the night before, I watched the UFC show and the Mayweather-Ortiz fight. So yeah, I watched a lot of athletics, but not a whole lot of pro wrestling. So I skipped Night of Champions, but I did read the results, and I've heard what other people have said about it, and I want to throw my 2 cents in. The 3 big things that happened, obviously, Mark Henry wins the world title. Something that would have pissed me off in 2006, or maybe even last year, but to be perfectly honest, the SmackDown brand as a whole is just meaningless to me. So I'm at a point where I don't even care who the champion is. To me, the WWE Championship is the true largest championship in the company, and the world title is just a secondary championship that they're not calling a secondary championship. They want me to think it's as high as the WWE title, but the way they've treated it and the way they treated the SmackDown brand as a whole, I don't think it is. So I don't really give a shit who the champion is. Doesn't matter if it's Orton, Christian, Mark Henry, Daniel Bryan, Sin Cara, Trent Beretta, Michael Cole. You know, it really doesn't matter who the champion is over there. It's just that brand is just a void. And whatever they do, I'm just apathetic towards. That's just my take on the brand lately, which is why I don't watch it all that much. So yeah, Mark Henry won the belt, don't care. John Cena defeated Alberto Del Rio to become the first ever 10-time WWE champion, which, again, I'll say the same thing I said with Edge. When you've held the title that many times, and, okay, throw 2 world titles, I think Cena's a 12-time guy now, right? When you've held the belt that many times, at what point do I stop caring? It's like, so what? He's champion again. We've been down this road a million times, whatever. And the flip side of that is I didn't really like Del Rio as champion anyway, so, again, who really cares? I'm just waiting for Punk to get the belt back, which I don't know if that's going to happen. But the sooner it happens, the better. I don't think he's going to win it at Hell in a Cell, but getting into the final thing that happened at Night of Champions, Triple H and CM Punk. Now, I'm not upset that Punk didn't go over. That's not what I'm going to harp on here. What I'm going to harp on is, and this is just coming from me reading the results. I didn't actually see the match. But I've heard a lot of other people comment on it. I've read like I said, I've read the results, and it sounded very confusing to me. I don't know of any other way to describe it. Again, not so much that Triple H went over. If anything, the way they protected Punk and had him, I think he survived, 2 pedigrees, a jackknife, took a 3rd pedigree to take him down, and there were like a dozen run-ins. So it was like, that's almost too much. That's almost a situation like, go back and watch The Rock and Chris Jericho at Royal Rumble 2002. That's a match where there's so much cheap shit going on to get the heel, to protect the babyface, but give the heel the win, that it's like, what, no machine gun? And that's kind of what this almost feels like, but with Punk going down, it's like, really, what, no machine gun? You know? But I was confused by some of what I read, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is what I thought I read. Miz and R-Truth ran down, broke up a pin that Punk had on Triple H, and then when they beat both of them up, they threw Punk back on top of Triple H. Which doesn't really make any sense, but alright, whatever. If that's what happened, then that's stupid and makes no sense. But, feel free to correct me in the comments section if I'm wrong. I don't know, it just sounded very Russo-esque and just overbooked to holy hell. And, that style of match became popular in the Attitude Era because it was new. Doing, like, constant ref bumps and the million run-ins and the constant insanity and chaos. That became commonplace in Attitude Era main events. And it was exciting because it was new. But since then, it's become cliche and old hat, and now I'm just bored with it. Now, can we just have some more clean finishes? And you watch TNA. I mean, they do it with their pay-per-view main events all the time. WWE, they kind of sort of did it with Money in the Bank, not really, but the ending of that show was perfect, so I'm not going to trash it. Then they did something a little wacky with SummerSlam, and now they did something even wackier with this pay-per-view, and it's starting to become the norm again, and they need to watch with that before it becomes commonplace and just, same thing as it has in TNA, just boring and stale and eye-roll worthy. Getting into Raw, I didn't watch much of Raw this week because Giants were playing Monday night, so that was where my attention was. I did see the opening segment, and I have to say, I'm not a fan of where this angle is going, because before the whole mystery was, okay, who sent the text? And the revelation on that was, I thought, extremely weak. And now it's, okay, who's behind the conspiracy? And it's not Triple H, so we're down to CM Punk and Triple H basically playing junior detective. And I don't know, I'm just not really digging this angle and where it's going. It's definitely not turning out as well as I'd hoped it would back in July or in August or anything like that. So that's disappointing to see. I hope it gets better. I hope once Rock comes back that it kind of injects Raw with new life again. I'm dying to see Punk interact with The Rock. I think that'll be really good if and when it happens. So that'll be something to look forward to. And we got Hell in a Cell coming up next week. Next Sunday. 2 weeks to build a pay-per-view. Holy fucking crap. I've been joking that there's a pay-per-view every other week. We're getting to a point where that's not even a joke anymore, because we had No Surrender, then we had Night of Champions, then we get a week off, and then we get Hell in a Cell. Then a couple weeks after that, it's Bound for Glory. And then, God, I don't even know. Is there another one in October for WWE? I don't know. There's just way too many goddamn pay-per-views now. It's insane. Even if you just count the WWE pay-per-views, 2 weeks in between shows? Who planned that? God, fuck, man. Drop a couple pay-per-views. It won't kill you. And, I'm not a fan of the gimmick for Hell in a Cell anyway, because it's just forcing a gimmick onto a situation rather than letting the situation develop into the gimmick. Case in point, the Hell in a Cell match is going to be Punk, Cena, and Del Rio in a three-way, when I feel, based on their storylines, it should be Punk and Triple H in a rematch, based on the way their Night of Champions match went, with 900 run-ins and all that insanity. It's like, well, put them in the cell and keep everybody out. That would make more sense to me, but alright. So there's that. I'm not going to order Hell in a Cell, so I guess it doesn't matter. But the last thing I wanted to talk about, the guest hosts that are coming Halloween night, Monday Night Raw, the Muppets are going to be brought on to WWE programming. I'm hearing a lot of opinions on the matter, on message boards and in the wrestling fan community or whatever, and I'll just throw my 2 cents in because I am, truthfully, a huge fan of the Muppets. I love the Muppets. I live in Maryland, and I grew up in Maryland, and Jim Henson's a bit of a folk hero around here. He went to University of Maryland. His statue was on campus, actually. So yeah, he's pretty awesome. I love the original Muppet Show. When I was a kid, I loved Sesame Street. It hasn't aged well, but I did love Sesame Street as a kid. Some of his other works, The Dark Crystal, I think is one of the best fantasy films of my childhood. Not necessarily for the story, but the way they constructed the whole thing and they put it together. And I love The Labyrinth. The thing I will thank Labyrinth for is that was the movie that taught me I like girls. My 5-year-old self took one look at Jennifer Connelly and said, I'm going to marry that girl one day. Didn't happen. Life didn't pan out that way, but, thanks for that at least. I just really like Jim Henson's work, and I'm a big fan of the Muppets. Now, my whole thing with them being on WWE programming, it's not so much worried that WWE's reputation is going to be tarnished by having a bunch of dancing puppets on the show. I almost feel like, are the Muppets too good for this? I don't want their legacy to be tarnished with a bunch of bad comedy sketches that the WWE is famous for. Typically when the WWE does comedy, it's painful. Really, really bad. And I don't want to see the Muppets attached to that. Just to be perfectly honest, most of the more recent Muppet projects haven't been that good. I didn't like Muppets from Space. I wasn't a huge fan of the Wizard of Oz movie they did. That was terrible, actually. Christmas specials were okay, I guess. But there hasn't been a whole lot of great Muppet stuff in a while, and I don't want them attached to something, that's comedically bad, which is what the WWE kind of does. I could be dead wrong. My fear is that this will turn into a Chucky or a RoboCop thing, like what WCW did. And I love Chucky and RoboCop, but put them in wrestling and it just didn't work. And I don't know if mixing the Muppets with wrestling will work. But I don't know. Me being a huge Muppet fan, there are some things is like, all right, if you're going to do this show, there's some things you have to do. Number one, Kermit has to do the intro. He has to come out, or however, because they're going to have to build like special sets, aren't they? To, hide the puppeteers and stuff. But, or they might just do it all backstage. I don't know. But, Kermit has to do the intro. Welcome to WWE Raw. Yay! You have to have Statler and Waldorf heckle somebody. Probably my favorite thing that the Muppet Show ever did was when they did that sketch where Statler and Waldorf were on the balcony and they were heckling Milton Berle. I might post the link to the video in the description because that was one of the funniest goddamn things I've ever seen. And you have to have Statler and Waldorf. Like, set up a little balcony for them and just have them heckle one of the matches or something. That would be great. And I would also like to see Crazy Harry on Pyro, even though Crazy Harry is the most un-PC character that the Muppets ever created. Yeah, a dark-skinned bearded guy that runs around indiscriminately blowing things up. I can't believe this character still exists in a post 9/11 world, but I saw him in the trailer for the new Muppet movie, so he's still there, amazingly. But yeah, I love Crazy Harry, so have him work Pyro, have him blow shit up. That would be awesome. And there's a couple other things they could do. You know what? Have Miss Piggy win a beauty contest over the Divas, some stupid shit like that. And you can make that stuff funny. You see, my problem is with WWE typical execution is really bad. I wouldn't be surprised if the Muppets upstaged a lot of their performers, actually, which would be kind of sad to watch. But, I don't know. There's a chance for this to be fun, at least. Not necessarily a great show, but if it's not going to be a wrestling show, at least make it good, and at least make it a good Muppet show, Because I don't want to see the Muppets tarnished. I really don't. So hopefully that's good. We'll look forward to that. And, like I said, we got The Rock coming back in for Survivor Series, so when that happens, that'll be good. Yeah, and that's it for this week, so stay tuned, everybody. I'm going to be talking about Bound for Glory in a little bit. I've got a lot of opinions. Now that the card is shaping up, I got a lot of things to say about Bound for Glory. And when The Rock comes back, I'll obviously have a lot to say about that. So Survivor Series and Bound for Glory, those will be the two big shows looking forward to. And until then, I'll see you all later.